Hey guys, this is part three of the conversation I had with my mother-in-law, Betty Jo Melvin, about race. This one was a little bit personal, more personal. They've all been really insightful and have certainly made me think, but this one we touched on when she thinks children identify white or black. Also, she talked about finding out that her son was dating a white woman, and I hadn't thought about that part of the story. I'd never asked her that question, and so to me, it was just eye-opening. Lastly, she shared a specific example of communication she had with a good friend of hers when that person didn't realize that they had offended her and how she dealt with it. I think that is very insightful, and I found it helpful and informative. So I hope that you enjoy this piece of the conversation. I hope that you learn something, and I really, really encourage you to continue to ask questions and chime in here because I would love to keep this conversation going. Thanks. So, if people are asking, how do you support right now? How do you show the Black community that you support? Even if you're in your home, I have a lot of friends that have said that. Like, I feel helpless. I just don't know what to do. What do you think?
You respect, back to that respect piece. You you respect what they're saying. You listen to them. That's all they want right now, is respect and listening. And we're all trying to come up with strategies and um, ways that we can come together as a country. And I guess suggestions, just talking and
But
listening.
in the end of the day, what you're saying is it just comes back to in life, you just think more about the way that you are engaging and
Exactly. That's the way that you're engaging with me. Um, and I don't know. I think I had an incident that just happened, and it was a good friend of mine, and she's white. I mean, we are really good friends, and she loves everybody. But she sent me an email that blew my mind, and I thought about it for 10 seconds, and then I called her, and I said, "Was your account hacked?" And she said, "No." I said, "Did you send me this?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Please don't send me anything like this again." And I explained she was upset. She says, "I would never do anything to harm our friendship." I says, "I know you don't. You wouldn't." I says, "And you were not thinking what this message said to me." I said, "I'm a mother of black boys and grandmother of black boys." I says, "The intent under this," I says, "the top part looks okay, but the person that was speaking, no." I said, "You can't send me this." And she did. She apologized. She didn't understand. And I don't think, has been watching what's going on. Um, but she really does. She loves black boys. She's a teacher. She loves black children.
I think what you did was so good because you were being really direct and giving her, as a white woman, that is part of it, not knowing what you can say. It goes back to the Black versus African American, but having someone like you who's going to call her and say that, it creates a safe space then, because there is a belief, like not knowing, okay, you never want to offend,
Right.
but what's offensive? So you're a mom and you're an educator and you have so much experience being around kids too. From your experience, when do you think kids tend to identify? I have heard that my husband's talked to me about that. He always says at some point our kids are going to identify white or black.
That's true. That's true. And I've seen that. In general, it happens when they get to school and when they get to first or second grade. They generally identify with one side or the other. I mean, they can mix with both, but they generally identify with one side or the other.
Sounds so
That's
simple, but how do you know? Because you see who they want to hang out with? Is that why?
You see who they want to hang out with. You listen to their thoughts. Even their thoughts are more like this side, more that side. Oh, so yeah. And in elementary school, we've seen it. We know. You can tell children in early grades, um, who are they more aligned with? Interracial children.
Do you think that they can get to a point where it's not, where it doesn't have to be that you're identifying one specific, but it's, it's more like a colorblind identity.
When they get older, a few children, not all children, a few. But we also have to remember, Lindsay, that sometimes, again, society does this to our children. They make them choose a side. Maybe with my grandboys that won't happen because you know, I got three sets of grandboys. I've got Hispanic.
Yep, you've got all of it.
That's right. I have interracial and I have black. And I don't want them to have to choose because they have families on both sides.
Yeah, and our kids have never brought up to us once that our two sets of parents look completely different. They've never asked that question, and I'm sure it might be coming, but it's never been asked. There's a woman who wrote in and said that she wants to know what kind of role that she can play as the grandmother of two biracial boys. Her kids, she said her grandkids are 1 and 3. What would you say?
Is she black or white? I assume she's white.
That's a great question. I don't know.
Because as as a black grandmother, I never had that question. I am going to be best grandmother that I can be. And that's what she needs to be. You give them your history. You let them know where you've been, what you've done, and that you're going to love them. But you make sure that they understand that their skin color does not matter. It does not matter.
And is it the same if it's a white grandma?
Yeah. But she's got to be acceptance of the fact that he's black. He has some black in him. And she's going to be there for him because there may be, I'm sure that, I've never thought of this before. I really never thought of this before until that if a white grandmother goes in the store with a black grandson by herself, how do people look at her? Do they look at her any different?
Someone asked, how did you feel about your son marrying a white woman? I wasn't going to ask you that, but I felt they said it and I was like, well, she's never shown me anything but love. But that is interesting because of where you are also. Can we talk about that?
Yes. Craig and I had that conversation, whether you know it or not, in the very in the in the very beginning. Yes, we did. And he told me, he said, well, Mama, you raised me, and I did. I told him that love has no color, that your skin color didn't matter as long as you loved him and he loved you. You know, but I also did tell him that some of the things that you're going to have to go through when you have children.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't worried about the two of you. It was children that I said, that you have to prepare your children and you have to make sure. But no, I am fine. I love you. So
well, now you have to say it because I'm kidding.
Right. No, I just, the color of your skin, it has nothing to do with who you are on the inside. About the way you bleed and the way you hurt and
It
the way
is.
you love my son.
That's
Yes.
so. It is interesting though because they're right, and These are conversations that are super like private, but it is interesting because I have thought, sure, like, what was it weird for you guys that right, or how was it perceived? But you kind of think about that, and you don't necessarily think you'd ever say it. But anyway,
We did have that conversation in the beginning. I mean, he made sure, you know, he said, "Well, Mama, Lizzie is." He had to tell he had to tell me that you were right. I mean, I don't even know how it came. I think y'all have been dating for a while. He kept talking. I says, "Okay," and he says, "Yeah, she is." And I
and
said,
he was
"Okay."
so colorblind that he didn't tell you.
I've always raised him like that, so I never we never asked about the color. Never did. He went to Wofford.
Yep.
So,
Which
I
is
mean,
primarily mostly white.
why?
But I know
Yeah,
that because if I ever reference what someone's race is in a conversation, he will always say, why does that matter? That doesn't matter. So it's interesting for me to hear the backstory to all of that, and to really get a better understanding of where that comes from, because that's a fascinating point. So he didn't tell you I was white until a while after you knew I was in the picture.
right. Well, he told me, I don't even know how the conversation came up. And he said, "Oh, something." I said, and he said, "Oh yeah, mom, she's white." He says, "Does that matter?" Because he knows me. And I says, "No, that does not matter." And I gave him the conversation that I just gave you. But that is the conversation that I always gave my children. And I've had that to come up before, even before he met you. People have asked me, you know, suppose your boys marry somebody that's not black. And I says, as long as they love them, that's all that matters. As long as whoever they marry, you know, love them.
I also remember having a conversation with you about early on, just about that, about what you said initially about him always having to go the extra mile because he's black,
Right,
and I remember thinking, I know you're right. I know I don't know why you're right. I don't fully understand it,
right,
but
right.
ugh, because then as a white woman, you want to be like, what? Like that should never be the case. That should never be the case. But
And it is.
um,
Black boys and black men have to prove themselves a little bit more than someone else of a white or whatever. They really have to prove that I can do this task. I can do this job.
when will that end? When do you think we'll get to a place?
Well, that's part of what has to happen now. We're talking about police racism. That is one of the things that have to end. Because I'm black should not mean that I'm not as qualified as John Doe over here, who's white. The color of my skin shouldn't determine that I'm not as qualified.
Is there anything that you think that you would share about what people should not say, or should not do? Or maybe you want to flip it around to the opposite. You said support, that's been the theme. But are there things that if people are saying, I want to turn my thinking, I want to be more aware of my interactions and stuff, is there anything that is offensive that people might not realize is offensive?
The biggest thing is to listen, listen, and don't judge us so quick. Be careful in judging people. I think that sometimes, even when we're reading on social media, we, we are quick to judge that person based on what they're feeling or what they're thinking. That is what they're feeling and what they're thinking because I don't know where they came from. I don't know where they came from. And sometimes others don't know where they came from because you never had to live there. You never had to worry about walking in the dark at night and whether somebody was going to stop you on the street. A policeman was going to stop you on the street because you were in the wrong neighborhood or why are you walking so late at night. So until you've lived, my mama used to say, until you've walked in my shoes, don't judge me.
You respect, don't judge. It starts with now parents and being a mom or a dad that's got the right message, right? That is listening and being smart about the way you're talking to your kids.
Teach your kids from home to love everybody.
Betty Jo, I love you. We'll have to do this again. There's been a lot to unpack, especially the fact that you didn't know I was white. And okay.